Hey everybody, welcome on into ClayShareCon Day 4, the afternoon session, and we have a really great demo lined up for you. Have you ever wanted to learn how to glaze and fire large pieces? Yes, you have. You may not know it, but this, if you're just starting out, you're like, no, but there will come a time where you need this. So we have lined up for you right now Jeff from GR Pottery Forms, and he is going to show you how to glaze and fire your large pieces. Hey, Jeff.
Hello, how's it going? And looks like you guys all just heard how to buy a new, bigger kiln. So this is a great, hopefully good segue into pushing you into buying that new, bigger kiln. Because you need it. Yeah, so hi everybody. Great to be back again. Jeff Rutman from GR Pottery Forms. And just glad to kind of share some knowledge. This kind of information kind of comes from having a studio setting and doing classes there, and having most of the glazes be dippable, because it's much more affordable for a studio to have dipping glazes for the students than having paint-on glazes. So so I just wanted to kind of show you, so that if you do go to a studio setting that has dipping glazes, not to be intimidated, and maybe give you a little head start, and give you some ideas on how to glaze big things. Because you know, I always kind of cringe, and I try to even steer people away from buying the giant forms to start out with, because I know there's so many different technical difficulties that can occur, and especially with this end process of glazing. So you may have made it through this whole stage of drying and preventing it from warping and cracking, and you get to this glazing stage, and now what? So hopefully I can make you feel easy and comfortable about using dipping glazes and firing big things once you kind of are comfortable for that setting. So there's lots of different ways, as we know, like to do things, and so this is just another kind of way or chance to have an alternative and solve some problems, especially as opposed to with large things. I wanted to show you just a quick segue from yesterday. I forgot, my son played in a hockey tournament yesterday at 4. So I ran out of here to go to the tournament and forgot about the plates. And so this was left on the form overnight, and it's almost bone dry already. But you can see it has a really nice, lovely, uniform, unwarped edge, right? So that is such the beauty, and you can see it's lifted up a little bit too. So you can see how that edge really kind of helps if you leave that on the form for a long time, especially with these large lipped, bigger plates.
It looks
It
great.
looks great.
So yeah, so I thought I would just quick show you that information we have here available. But so I guess the first thing to talk about is kind of preparing your bisque pieces. And I double fire. So first I bisque fire the work, and then I'm going to do a glaze firing. I really like to make plates and platters that have this leaf texture in them, and that's a whole nother talk about how to do that. But so I really like how this glaze kind of looks like wet leaves, and it's really just done by adding wax and painting. I don't know if you can see see if you can get close here. Let's try the overhead here. Maybe the overhead will help us with kind of see the leaf here. There's just a really faint leaf impression in there that looks like it's coming through all right, Jess? Yeah, you can see the maple leaf down here. And what I'm doing is, all I'm going to do is paint wax resist on those leaf imprints. And so then when I dip it in the glaze, and there's all kinds of wax out there. This is just, it's a commercial wax resist. I got this from Standard. Their supply stores are called Ceramic Supply Chicago, Ceramic Supply New Jersey, Ceramic Supply Pittsburgh. they have some of this wax. I know there's a bunch of other people out there. Aftosa, that is no longer a company, but they are now, the company Aftosa is owned by Clay Planet. So you can still get Aftosa wax from Clay Planet. And it has a dye in it so you can see where you've waxed. But it's a great tool to be able to kind of design with glaze, especially if you're dipping or painting. And I'm sure Jess had the class on using wax resist for decorating. But yeah, so you may even have yeah. So, but back, if I forgot one step. Let's see if I can reach my brushes without flipping things over. Okay, so I'm giving you a tip here, and this is a tip that is not the best for a studio environment or for your health. So you really want to make sure you're using a respirator when you do this. But I know a lot of people like to wash their bisque and clean them before they dip them. I'm always running out of time, so I don't have that luxury to let it sit overnight. So like a lot of times what I would do is take a brush and then just brush out the clay dust or any dust that may have happened since we have used these pieces last. So if you have an outdoor studio, this is a great thing to do outside with a lot of ventilation, because those fine particle dust is what is really kind of bad for our lungs. But you know, if you're smart and do it right, you can do it easily do it very safely. So I like to do this, and then that way that this bisque is really easy to absorb all those glazes. So it's ready, it's dry, it's like ready, it's thirsty for those glaze, that liquid glaze. So that's what I do. And then I put the wax on. Sorry, I missed that step before the wax. And then I paint those wax leaf parts on there. I know a lot of people talk about waxing the bottoms of your pieces. I think it's for me, I like to, again, I have these different choices for different things, right? If it has a nice foot like this, and I'm going to show you how I do this later on, a nice smooth foot, I don't want to, I'm really bad at painting the straight line with wax. So I'll show you here in a little bit, but what I'm going to do is I'm not going to wax the bottom if it has a nice foot on the bottom. If it's big, open, and bare, then I will wax the bottom. Or if we have a texture on the bottom, that's going to be really hard to clean. I want to avoid, I'll wax that too. So it all just depends on which part you're doing, but I want to show you with these nice footed pieces that we make on the wall, and it's nice and smooth, right? And so we don't really need to wax. And by not waxing, I'll show you how to do it, but we'll get a nice clean line that it won't look like a brush stroke on the bottom. So. Any questions about wax resist or kind of prepping your pieces to be fired?
We have a bunch of people saying hi, and they love all the information and all the classes that you've been doing as part of ClayShareCon. And then we do have a question. Did you paint the wax on the leaves and then sponge them onto the platter?
Nope. So how that process works, and there's some videos out there, but basically, I press the leaves into the wet clay before I form it onto use the wah. And so that creates that indentation of the leaf imprint. It creates that leaf imprint on there. So then when it's bisque fired, you can see that faint imprint of the leaf on there, and that imprint is what I wax. So just the imprint. And if you are really, this is great for this, but if you want to paint a color under there too, you could easily do that. And then maybe paint a wax on top of that color. So there's all kinds of options. There's all kinds of ways of kind of addressing that. One thing I want to show you too, another thing, kind of teasing you here at the beginning of probably should just get started, right? But this one does not, and I wanted to talk about this one. This one does not have a foot on the bottom. This is a pie plate, right? And so I want to shove it into the oven and not get caught on the grease of the oven. And so I don't have a foot on the bottom of this one. Let's look at maybe you can see on the top. I don't know if it'll show up on the shiny part here, but what I did was I made little wax circles with my brush. And so it made an empty space. And now what I'm going to do, once I glaze it, I'm going to put these little pegs on here. So we'll talk about that in a second. So just wanted to talk about, so there's another way to use wax resist for my advantage, because I don't want to have glaze where I'm going to put these little round balls of clay, so little stilts. So talk about that too. So that's where we're going here. So as you can see on this table here, I have all kinds of buckets of glaze, and these are made, and you can go, I know this will be a big question, you can go online and there's all kinds of glaze recipes. So if you have access to mixing your own glazes, it's a great opportunity. It's a huge cost saving to be able to mix your own glazes. But you can also buy the dry glazes that you just add water to, which is also a big cost saving from like places like Kentucky Mudworks. So Kentucky Mudworks, they have the 20% off this weekend. So as a sponsor, the Dirty Girls, same company. So if you go to the Kentucky Mudworks site, they do have dry glazes that you can put in a bucket and do what we're going to do here today. So, but having these buckets of glazes, and part of what I really like about glazing this way is you don't really see, we'll go to this camera here again maybe, you don't really see all the brush marks, or you see a pretty consistent layer of glaze on top of your piece, right? So it's a great opportunity for that bottom and top. You don't see really drip marks. It's just some really nice unified glaze on there. This one you can see maybe that has a hole in it. This is that one from the plate stand, the top piece of the plate stand. So, all right. So this is the fun part. So let's see here if we can switch to this bottom camera here. Top camera here. You can see how I don't know if you can see down into the bucket, but it's pretty well half water and then half liquid. And so what I need to do is I really need to, the team has got some, looks like floating, maybe sawdust in there, which is okay, that'll burn out, right? But it's, and so what I want to do is take my drill, and I want to make sure this glaze is mixed up really well. And see how the surface is pretty steady? Maybe you guys like making smoothies or daiquiris or justinis with a blender. You can see at the end, it's got this nice flow at the end. You kind of know when it's done. It's got this nice like tornado kind of effect. So you really want to keep mixing the glaze until it has that effect.
Hey guys, letting you know that when Jess talks, we've got a bad echo here. So do you have both devices kicking sound out of speakers? I've got the program muted so no one can hear us right now.
Kev, are you doing an overhead view for Jeff? No, it's not the view's fault. I don't know what it is. I muted my, is it still echoing for me? Can everybody hear me? Nobody can hear me?
I can hear you, but I don't hear an echo. So
okay, well let's put it back. We're going to turn the sound back on. Let's see. All right, we're just doing a sound check to see if there's an echo. We had an echo before. And so a little sound check. And we had to switch cameras. It took a sec. Sorry, the sound check meant that we were paused on switching cameras for a sec. So I'm sorry, everyone. We weren't overhead for all of that. But we got it now. We're good now. Everything's good. Sounds good. Yes. No echo. It's fixed. Okay, good. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you all for your patience.
It came back.
Oh, now it's back.
Oh, now it's back. The echo's back.
Now it's bad.
Now it's bad. Kevin, mute whatever you're. Take your mute.
I think it could be coming through you.
Maybe it's my annoying drill making all that weird noise, right? So you can see it's starting to develop that hurricane, tornado. Oh, there it is. It's like when it starts talking back to you, it's ready. All right. So it is super important that you keep mixing the glaze. This is a huge thing. The glaze is just being suspended in that water. So if you let it settle and set, it's going to settle, and so it will be inconsistent. So, all right. So I used this bucket last time, so I didn't need to clean it out. I know it's the same glaze, so, and I'm cheap that I don't want to have to waste the glaze by washing it out. And so now I just pour this glaze into this bath here. And you can just use, I was going to get another one here. Forgot to get that one out, but maybe have to quick get that out for another glaze. But this bat here is what you can just use like a tote, like a storage tote. Works really good. And I want it to be large because I want to be able to get the whole piece in there. But you don't need to worry about filling up the whole thing with glaze.
Jeff, is that a cone 10 glaze?
This is a cone 6 glaze, and it's called beeswax. And I'm pretty sure it's out there in the land of WWW.
Glazes? And do you check specific gravity every time you use the glaze?
I do not know. So I probably should, because this glaze is a pretty high iron glaze, and so it I do get some inconsistency. So it probably would help if that goes, but that's a little too scientific for me. So so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use these glaze tongs and pinch them together on the edge. And it feels like you're going to drop it or break it, but it's pretty strong. And then we're just going to dip it into the glaze and give it a 1, 2, 3 count. Lift it out. Give it a little shake. I'm a little concerned about this wax because you can see it's starting to develop a little bit. But that the wax isn't quite resistant as much as I like. But you can see it's starting to, as it dries, it's starting to have this, the wax part is still shiny and the other part is still matte. Just dip it in the glaze again. I'm going to give it one quick more coat. It looks kind of thin.
And we have a question. Can you go into the advantages of having a dipping glaze versus a paint-on glaze?
Yeah, so it's tricky because you kind of need a lot of space is the disadvantage. I just go with disadvantages first. The disadvantage of these dipping glazes is you need a lot of equipment, and it kind of takes a lot of strength to be able to use this tongs. So some people may not be comfortable with that. But the advantages of using dipping glazes is you get this nice, you can see how nice this pattern is around. You can kind of control, you get a nice thicker layer of glaze on there and more even amount. So that's what I think is for me, the big advantage is and it's quick, right? I mean, if I had to paint this platter, 2 or 3 coats on here, it may take 10, 15, 20 minutes to do that. So as a production potter, I want to kind of figure that out. But if you, I talked about too, if you have difficulty with lifting it, you can use pouring devices and then just pour it on there. The bad thing is that this will create a little bit of variation with kind of those drip marks. So you want to make sure you kind of spread it all around there. Let me grab onto where there's wax and kind of let it all run out. But I sometimes kind of control, like if I may want to have, you know, like a dip pattern. So you definitely can create different things with and so you can see that this sometimes maybe I might have to kind of wipe that glaze off a little bit on the inside. But usually that wax resist does its thing. And so this one, I don't know, I don't have it quite dialed in here. I might need to make a few adjustments to make it thinner or thicker to get it to resist a little bit better. But I know it's definitely creating a different layer of glaze because all this outside part is absorbing into the clay. So then what I want to do is once it's dry, here's another wax resist thing, is I didn't wax resist that stem, the stems, right? And so what I want to do is take my knife and let it kind of glide, the tip of it glide along the edge of that stem, and just clean it out a little bit. It doesn't have to be cleaned out perfect, because then it doesn't overpower your piece. That it just kind of makes it look like a stem. Makes it look more natural. And so don't worry if it cracks a little bit. It's going to absorb a little. It's going to kind of melt and do its thing. So now we have these nice stems, and we have these nice. So you can see this glaze is going to turn out to be this plate. And so you can see how the stems, you know, this shows they're deeper than the stems are typically deeper than the petals. So it's going to show up already as it is.
That's a great plate.
Here's a good example of where I had put underglaze underneath there, black underglaze on this plate. I carved a little bit of a design in there so you can see the white clay showing through. And then I put a clear glaze on top. So I dipped it in clear glaze. And I wanted to show you here too. So there's so many things. This is actually a Kentucky Mudworks clay body. I think it's called Dark Star. It's really lovely white, speckly clay body. And I thought it was great that it has these little subtleties of where, I don't know if you can see close enough here, where you can see how where it was glazed and where it's unglazed, there's a different, those little specks that are in there kind of melt or just stay as little specks. So the glaze is a major factor in how what's going to happen. So this is the thing where I like to try to kind of minimize my options of glazes and then try to make the best out of those glazes like that you can create. So
we had a question, how do you glaze the back of the leaf plate?
I would have, good point. So the first one I dipped completely in there. See, I knew I couldn't get away with it. You guys are too good. I didn't glaze. I should have. What I should have done was glaze. You should glaze the back first, so I could have poured the glaze on the back. But I was so anxious to show you the front that I didn't do the back. But glaze the back first, and then let's do it here now. You got to now, right? And here, the glaze is already starting to settle. So you may even really want to dump it back in the bucket and mix it up again. Because usually you see on this side how you got these little runny lines. That's why you want to do the back first, because then you can cover those up on the front. But now we'll probably have some runny lines on the front. So all different things to kind of overcome, even when you're dipping. Not too bad. It's got this nice kind of edge over here. And I usually just set my pieces right on the table until they dry, and then then I can come back and do that foot. Really need a towel and lots of water. I also think the important thing of glazing is to have a nice button-down shirt on. It really makes it become all business, and
Very
so
fancy.
definitely having a button-down shirt really helps.
So it says, do the tongs leave marks when you dip the plate?
Oops, sorry?
Do the tongs leave marks when you dip the plate?
Yes.
Yeah,
You guys are
they do.
good. And I think I'll show you that one. It's so interesting because I dipped that one end twice. And this one is, these plates are pretty thin. So it's having a hard time absorbing completely into the glaze. So, oh good. It actually worked out pretty good, because usually where those tongs are, dry is usually the quickest. And you can barely see this like little mark. Let's see if I can barely, I don't know, can you see that? Barely, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And then all I do is
I
just
see it.
take my finger and rub those little marks.
Just peel them over.
And when the glaze is really dry, it works way better, because it's kind of like sandpaper, like you're sanding that little edge off, and doesn't take the glaze around it off.
Some folks said, could you just mix the glaze in the tub?
It's just not as easy to mix in the tub because it's got this big wide surface, so it's all kind of trapped in this bucket. So it really helps it to kind of agitate it better.
And they're saying you being dressed up, your high class glazing.
High class glaze. You got to be all business, and you know,
that's right.
it turns out better. No messing around, no having fun. You know, no cute outfit here, or maybe a cute outfit would work just as well. So. Okay.
I think it all just depends. It's all good.
All right, so now I'm going to show you the bottom here, and this is what I like to do is make sure you have a kind of damp sponge, not so it's dripping damp, but just nice and damp. And then if it's nice and stiff and you don't, if you don't compress it so it squishes it, you can just keep running over the edge of this foot. And look how clean that line is. So you don't have to spend all this time. And all I do is kind of move around my sponge where it's clean for each plate. So every time I got to clean off my sponge. But now I have this nice clean line. If you watch some of the videos from like China where they do production stuff, they sometimes have like a mat that you would press them in, and they have that damp, and then they just rub it over the top, and that cleans off that one little edge. So this kind of works the same way. So there we go. So this piece ready to go. I forgot to avoid having the lines on the front or the back. That's where the dipping would really work best for that. You won't get those drip lines if you dip it well. So that's caused from where the glaze is running. So you got to try to find a way where it's just kind of you're putting it into that glaze with the tongs. So I kind of want to show you, like, you know, if you don't have the strength to, I had a lot of people in my classes that weren't really comfortable with using those tongs. So that's a way you can get around that. I definitely prefer the dipping, using those tongs to dip it in the glaze. You get away, like this one here, you can see how there's no dripping marks on there.
So do you worry about the glaze running when you just clean the bottom of the foot, not the side?
Awesome question. Oh, you guys are good. I knew it. I can't get away with anything. I have tested these places over and over and over, right? And so true, this would not work. That method I just showed you would not work with a real runny glaze. And honestly, you wouldn't want to have a runny glaze that close to the bottom anyway. And so I use a lot of times, like maybe if I want to have a real drippy kind of runny glaze, I can now put that on the top and the surface of this piece, where I would not want to put it down on the bottom. So like even if I was making a mug, I might dip that top part into another glaze that's going to run and drip and stuff, but I don't want that it to be really close to the bottom. You can also develop these your work, like we talked about, knowing what glaze you want to use based on your form and what you're making. So if you have a real runny glaze, you may want to put a little ridge on the bottom of your mug that will stop that glaze from running down all the way to the bottom, getting on the shelf and ruining your piece. So that is a great question. So I have strategically picked glazes that has this nice clean line. I have the nice foot on there, but it doesn't have the distraction of this like kind of irregular hand painted line on there. It's got a really nice clean edge,
So we have a question. Could you just use your hands to hold the plate and dip and then wash your hands?
Yeah, a lot of potters do that. I don't know what it is, but I felt like I didn't have a good consistent movement with my hands or something. And I think some glazes work better than that. Those are the glazes that are going to melt a little bit more. And so, yeah, you could do it with that. So there's all this kind of trial and error on what works best for you. There's so many different options for that. So, yeah. Keep asking questions. I can hear you. I'm going to go grab a tote here really quick.
All right, you all type in if you have questions for Jeff. I will go ahead and ask it of him. What about off-gassing during glaze firing? Is it a concern as far as the? I don't think there's a concern. No, it's not an issue. I'm trying to keep up with the questions. You guys got a lot of them. I love the suggestion of using the old pieces of rug to wipe the bottom after. So that's a really good suggestion.
It was just off camera. Of course, it had some stuff in it. And the best part is, if you're in your garage, early on, I had to, I was doing this in our kitchen. My wife was really, we were young then, and we were newly married, and I could get away with glazing things on the kitchen floor, especially in the winter when it was so cold out in the garage.
I know. So a couple questions. Just wondering, how long can a glazed pot sit out before going in the kiln? A day, a month, a year?
Glazed pot? Glaze, I wouldn't recommend it because it can collect dust and stuff. So I would definitely want to glaze things when you're ready to put them in the kiln. I don't have the experience or know like what the actual rate is for that. And I don't know if even the glaze manufacturers would. I would just glaze when you're ready to put it in the kiln. One thing is that you can have bisque pieces sitting there for long periods of time, and then when you're ready, just kind of clean them off, either by washing them or my bad method of using a brush to brush off the dust. But yeah.
So people want to know what the dark color on the leaves and rim is.
Dark colors on the
leaves and the rim.
Yeah. Okay. So this is like this part you're talking about, or like right here.
Yeah.
That's just variation of the glaze. So
it's that particular glaze. And what was that glaze again?
Beeswax.
Beeswax. People are asking, is that a commercial glaze? It is beeswax. I'm not sure who makes it. Just search for beeswax glaze.
Yeah. I think one of the glaze gurus.
Or you make it yourself.
Glazes or something like that. They have like John Britt. John Britt is an amazing.
Oh, he's great. Course,
if you can ever get in a John Britt glaze class, that's really awesome. And also, a big one I really like from practical speaking is Steve Lopes. And I don't know if you guys. I can type this in later on in Facebook anyway. I can type in comments on Facebook if you later on. But Steve Lokes is a good one too. He has an NCECA YouTube. Just type in, I think it's like fixing an ugly glaze. It's a nice talk about just glazes and how you can adjust your glazes for what you're trying to go for. So all kinds of great resources out there right now, right? And that's a great thing, great thing to talk about. How I have most of my glazes, especially even this, these here, is what I did was I had this glaze class where we had to just bring in a recipe that we found online and bring that in and test it. And then most glazes recipes are broken down by 100% of it is the base glaze. And then you add in colorants like copper or cobalt or even just mason stain. So what I did was for the studio glazes was I have this whole series of glazes that are the same base glaze but different colorants. So there's lots of different ways, and then I have like 3 different patterns, and then they really they're nice family together. They have the same sheen, the same thickness. I believe this one has like a glossy glaze on top of those bottom kind of matte glazes or semi-matte.
So the beeswax glaze, I just want to clarify for the folks out there, is a glaze you would get the ingredients for and mix up yourself. It's not commercially available. The beeswax
Correct.
is a recipe that you would make yourself. And if we can find it, I will look, and if Jeff finds it, we'll put it up there. It's one that's been out. It's been published.
Yeah, it's been published, exactly. And I don't think, if it's a manufacturer that's making that glaze, they may not call it beeswax. So there's some great glazes out there, and definitely, this one works really well. I wish I had a piece here to show you on a different clay body. So this one really matches the clay body really well. It's got these nice speckly glazes, and so or specks in it in the clay. So that's another thing too. So don't worry.
A few more glaze questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
we got. Now I hate interrupting you when you're talking. She always has so much great things to share with us. So does a glaze ever get old or expire?
I would say, well, it's really all dirt, just like clay, right? So most of it anyway. So it definitely, some of the commercial glazes have things in them that are commercially made to help you with to brush them on and make them stay fluid. So brush on glazes are a whole different thing. Underglazes are a whole different thing. Slips are a whole different thing. So what I'm referring to when I say these glazes that were powder formed from minerals and that you mixed up, I would say they probably might have a longer shelf life. You might just have to add more water to them. So, and figure out that specific gravity. So, yeah. So that's really kind of, that's the thing, right? With clay, mixing clay or glazes is like, it's all dirt, and we're just trying to find different combinations of to make it dirt.
And there was a comment about someone was donated a bunch of glazes that are solidified. Can they be saved?
Get rid of them.
Like hard panned. Yeah, get rid of them. Sadly, when a glaze hard pans, you really can't bring it back. I have fought with glazes for months to try to bring it back, and you can't. It hard pans every time.
No, you don't want to fight. You don't want to. It's the same way with clay. Like somebody gives you a whole truckload of free clay that's been like some of it's hard, some of it's soft. You don't want to spend the time for that. It's like you're just going to constantly fight it through every process of it. So fresh, right? Fresh glaze, fresh clay, fresh tools. They're all those old tools, fresh ones. Fresh forms. That's the big one, I think.
Fresh forms. I like the fresh, right? And someone said what I said yesterday. It's all dino poo, anyways.
Yeah.
That's become the comment for the Clay Share Con. Is all dino poo.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, and I think then they switched the marketing from fresh to clean, right? So we just want clean products. All right, so now I'm just gonna I just have a bath of water over here in this bucket, and so it's real easy to clean off my mixer. I think it's called a Jiffy mixer. I've noticed, I've been to most of the distributors in the country, and so some of them have them, some of them don't. You can buy them at paint stores, different hardware stores have them, some of them don't. But this is a really nice one that has these really strong parts on the bottom. Because a lot of times you buy a plastic one from Home Depot or even a metal one, it starts to wear down really fast because the glazes have you know, they're very coarse and they're gonna just start breaking things down. Let me change gears just a little bit here. What I'm gonna do, this is this glaze here. I made this plate. I made a triangle one, I guess, in the class the other day, right? Just kind of wanted to show you what you could do also here. So this is the same glaze. It has once it's fired, it's going to look like this. Hard to imagine, right? And so this is what I made this other plate. Not super happy with the form of how this turned out, but it was a good learning experience on using iron oxide. And I love this part here too. So this really shows you how I had a little bit of iron oxide, and I'm going to show you this technique in a second here. But on the bottom here, it's just the glaze, no iron oxide. So just a little bit of iron oxide on the surface of the plate created a different, I don't know if you can see that, the difference between the side and the bottom. See the bottom? See the side? It's got a little brown tint to it. So just even your mistakes, what you want to do is analyze those and make records too. That way you can use those to your advantage later, right? Turning those lemons into lemonade, right?
That's right. You can also put lemon juice in your Justine instead of lime, so you could, you know.
Yes. This is some Starbucks red iron oxide. No, just kidding. I only had a Starbucks cup laying around one day to put this in. So this is red iron oxide. This is a great tool for decorating, and you can't barely see it. So now all you need to do is add a little bit of water to it. And there's no really magic ratio, I don't think, because really what I'm going to do is wipe it off. And so what I'm going to do with this iron oxide, you saw on that leaf pattern, I want these textures to really kind of pop out of those with that white glaze, and so that the white glaze doesn't really cover it up completely. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint this iron oxide right into these marks here. And I made this, calling it a bowl. It's got two forms. So it's the ramen bowl, I think, chili bowl, maybe chili bowl here. So that way you can put all those extra fancy toppings around the outside, right? Got the nice lip on there. And so I'm just gonna, and I won't do the whole thing, just to kind of, I have lots of examples, so I can skip some steps, right? So really what I would really want to do if I really wanted to finish this piece, but this, because of time, I'm just gonna skip ahead here. What I wanna do is take my sponge and water, and now what I wanna do is just wipe that, that glaze away. And you can see how there's a little bit of iron oxide on the edge there now. And so I really could, I want to make that sure that that's going to translate consistently. I'm going to leave this one open just so I have this as a test, right? And so you got to keep wiping off cleaning out your sponge here. This might be a good thing to, depending on how comfortable you are. I know, but you can wear like rubber gloves for this part. Then your nice pretty nails don't get all stained. But you know, I'm trying to go for something else to like distract from my
From your
bad
shirt,
nails.
from your dress shirt. So you look like I don't, yeah, I wouldn't be worried about the nails being stained.
But you know, the good thing is that I was going to say that this, if you just use dish soap, yeah, so that means I have to go home and wash the dishes now, right? And so if I go home and wash the dishes, rinse off all that stain. All right, so you can kind of see, let's see here, you can kind of see this the pattern in that or that red iron oxide inside of that pattern. So it's really going to pop when I put it in the glaze firing. Does that make sense? So if I want a texture that's really subtle, maybe, or I'm putting on a nice clear glaze and I want, or a real thick glaze and I want that texture to kind of come out, I may just add some iron oxide on there.
Can we zoom in? We're gonna see if we can zoom in a bit so people can see that, Jeff. Folks want to see that. Hold on. They could see that texture on that plate that you were just working on. Oh yeah, Jeff, do you mind holding it back up and we'll zoom in so people can see? So Kev can only zoom in when it's in the center to get the view. So if it's, but you get it? And then tilt it this way and a little to your left, and then up a little, and then wait, no, hold. Perfect. Great.
All right.
Yeah.
No
that's good.
No iron oxide with iron oxide, right?
That's great.
I'll fire this for everybody and show everybody after the conference what this looks like. So now I have a different glaze, white glaze. Yeah, you can make your own music, especially if you're down in the Carolinas, right? Like a good music kind. Make that thing slurp. That's the noise we're going for right there. Now you can just take your, dip it in the bath of water. So now I can take this, I like this so you know too, you can kind of help. Sometimes the bucket wants to drip. I kind of aim for the corner. All right. So I wanted to do, bumping up against this one here. So this is the one with these little pegs of clay. And all I did was make these with clay. I just rolled them into balls, and I want them to be about the same thickness. So you could even use like a slab, works really well too, or like a foot maker. Make a strip of clay and then cut it in little pieces so it's all the same height. And so in a minute here, I'm going to put these on the bottom of the bottom. I'm going to try it. Ooh, this will be good. And you can see where I have these little glaze marks. What I'm doing right now here, I'm using water to my advantage. I'm going to just wet that wax. Sometimes it's been sitting here for a while, so it's not as resistant, I don't think. So see if I can solve my problem before. So now you can even see where I put those, strategically put those marks. And then eventually what I'm going to do is, once I glaze it, then I'm going to glue these with Elmer's glue on the bottom. So someday you'll have to come back for another demo about that. Okay, so say I might not have very much glaze. I got this big, huge tote, and it just has a little bit in the bottom. All I have to do is move my bucket over so that now I have a deeper piece here. And the best thing is that I can come in from this direction, and even if I have a big bowl, let's do the bowl first. Brush, brush,
We have
brush.
a question about the little balls that you're gluing on. Did you bisque fire those first?
Yeah, I
not
did.
raw clay.
I misfired them. Yep, yep.
So basically you're doing your own fired wads kind of, instead of making a EPK alumina hydrate wet wad, you're doing a fired wad.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's
those are a great little thing.
Now what I can do is I can do this by hand. I can twist this around here, go back the other way, and grab the glaze side with my tongs. And voila, I have this nice, nice big bowl here, that we can glaze. You know, so it has a nice even layer. So you got to kind of figure out a strategy to that works for you to be able to manage those bigger ones. And so now this one I can dip the whole thing in. It's not as deep. Come on, wax resist, work for me. That's working a little better. I'm going to give it a little movement. So now you can see the problem with these ones that don't have a foot is that I have to hold it a little bit longer until it dries enough. Otherwise, I'll smear the glaze.
We got wadding. Wadding. Can't help it.
Here's a temptation where it has those tong marks, right? Temptation is to fix it right away. Just wait till it dries a little bit. Yeah, so those are during the firing yep. So I guess I should probably.
I think a lot of people aren't familiar with wadding or using the little balls on the bottom of pottery. So I think it's a new thing. And, you know, so I don't know if you want to talk about it briefly.
Yeah, search it out. So. You really only need to know about it if you're making these pie plates, right? Like you want to do this. So another day, another demo. Got all kinds of information.
We'll have to have Jeff come back and do more with us.
Yes. Talk about that more, and I can take some pictures of it when it's ready, finished, and post those for you too before I fire it. So see what happens. The thing is, what you may be confused about me using Elmer's glue. So what I'm going to do is use Elmer's glue and glue these on now that I have the glaze on there. But I didn't want the glaze to get on my little wad, right? So now I can Elmer's glue that on there. And the reason I want to Elmer's glue that on there is because if I want to try to put it in the kiln, I need those to be stuck on there. But the Elmer's glue is going to burn out in the firing, and they're just going to be loose and rolling around in the kiln when the kiln's done. So it's a nice little strategy, nice little trick.
And then you get to reuse them. So they're something you make and you have a bunch of them and you just keep using them until something happens to them. But yeah, and Jeff was saying, if you search up online wadding for firing, W-A-D-D-I-N-G, there's different kinds of wadding, usually in a wood fire kiln. If you're doing that type of firing, you always use wadding because it's a different type of firing, but there's other ways to use it, as Jeff's showing, which is pretty creative. And so Kev's telling me about 5 minutes.
5 minutes, yes, coming to the end here. So here's a bowl. This has that same glaze on it. It's been sitting there for a little while. And
I don't know what's going on. It's loud.
Nobody's throwing away equipment over here. No.
Like breaking stuff.
No,
so people want to know, would the pie plate slump in the middle during firing?
Good question, man. I can't get away with anything. You guys are too good. You must have a good teacher. But that middle part is, if you do have a clay that slumps in the middle, then you could just add one of those little little wads to the middle. So yeah, definitely, I would definitely watch that. Yeah, right. It's a beeswax.
Same one.
I know everybody's going to ask. I can see if I can locate it too and kind of share it. But there's so many great glazes out there. Uh, Kentucky Mudworks again. I keep talking about Kentucky Mudworks. My buddy Link.
Yeah,
She
she's
told
great.
me she has and she does the Gertie Girl tools. So she was so excited with you guys buying slingshots yesterday. So thanks for doing that.
No.
But anyway, she has
I hope there's some left. I didn't order one yet.
Okay, I mean, that's all right. Good to know. But she was saying that on their the glazes that they sell, they have like 5 different options of and I'm sure at Playscapes they have the same where you know you can see all these different test tiles of different results, and like Jess does make your own test tiles too. But so you kind of know there's so many great glazes out there and so many combinations, like it's like endless. So what I would do is try to stick to one thing and try to master it, and then move on to the next. Then try to master the next thing. Don't try to master all the different glazing things because it's impossible. And I tried to avoid. I tried to just do dipping glazes in my community studio because again it was just more of a cost thing. I was hardly charging anything for the classes, so I needed to not have a huge supply expense. So, and it also kind of forces you to have a smaller area to work with. It's way more, it's less anxiety provoking and easier to kind of master and figure out. So let's see, what other things can I show you? So, you know, what's the question? I don't, of course. Those pie plates, they are a great thing to make because they never stick around. Actually, I may have one.
We have a few questions about wadding too. This is going to become, it's a whole new thing. So folks want to know, will the glue you're using for the wadding stick to the waxed areas?
I don't know if you guys know me that well, but I like to, out there in the WWW land, I like to like stir the pot a little bit and like make you kind of things. So now you're gonna want to know everything about wadding, right?
And he's gonna make you go look for it. He wants you to look it up so that you have to research it yourself. Same thing with the beeswax glaze. He could tell us, but he's he reminds me of my old professor. That's a compliment.
You learn by make mistakes and then discovery.
I mean, I made all of the mistakes.
You just gotta, get into a pottery career and work 80 hours a week making pots and glazing, and you'll figure it out in like a couple of weeks.
And only a couple of weeks or 20 years.
Yeah.
No, you never learn it all. You never. And that's the beauty of it. There's always more to learn and there's more to discover. There's so much out there. So Jeff, This has been so great. I've loved it. So fabulous. And you'll be back with us tomorrow for another demo. Sadly, it'll be the last one for Glacier Con this year with you. But it's all right. We still got tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
We're ready. Tomorrow, it's only a day away. All right, everyone. Thank you so much.
This really great glazing and firing large pieces tutorial with Jeff. Jeff is just the best. If you want to know more about Jeff and his forms, go check out grpotteryforms.com. He is doing 20% off basically everything during Glacier Con, and that sale ends at 10 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, 2/28/21. And you don't have to use any code at all. It's automatic. You just go and get what you want. So if you've been saving up and waiting to get GR Pottery Forms, this is your best opportunity to do so. So go get yourself some forms and look up that beeswax glaze. Go find some glaze recipes and search it up. I'll be back in 15 minutes. We are going to be doing some glazing with Amico. We're going to do, I believe next we are doing Sorry, I have a lot of glazing stuff today. Next, we are doing how to bring out texture using Georgie's interactive pigments. Then we'll do layering Amico glazes after. So I'll see you in a few minutes for some Georgie